Alrighty. What's up, everybody? This is G and Taffy. She's like, I heard you press the record button. We're here. Come on, turn around. She's half asleep. Come on. Get comfortable. Here's your little blanket. Yeah. You know we're here to talk about Pluto? Yes, we're here to talk about Pluto. So, while Taffy's going to get all comfy and try to rub on every little thing possible, Pluto's about changes. It makes changes on a very deep level. So one of the things is Pluto being in Aquarius energy. Part 1 video was talking about Pluto in Aquarius squaring Scorpio, squaring Taurus, being in opposition to Leo energy. So you have to find out, where are your fixed signs in your chart? Where's your Scorpio energy? What house number is it in? What house number is your Taurus energy in? What house number is your Leo energy in? Because Pluto in Aquarius is changing and transforming all 4 houses, not just the house that it sits in. Now, for some of us, say you have Scorpio energy in your chart, or Taurus and Leo, or even Aquarius for that matter. The transiting Pluto's going to get there, and it automatically angles and squares as it travels either those house cusp lines of those signs, right? The signs. So say you've got, let's just pretend that you've got your Scorpio energy. Let's just say it's in your 2nd house or your 3rd or 4th or 5th, whatever. But let's say you're looking at your chart and you're like, well, I don't have anything in Scorpio. Well, if you use a tropical Placidus chart system, what degree is on that 2nd house cusp line, or what degree is on the 3rd house cusp line? And so this would be for Scorpio and Taurus and your Leo, right, energy. So we're looking to see, because then that can tell us when the Pluto will angle the house cusp line. Now, if you have planets there, then that means Pluto will come into contact and talk with those planets. So when it creates that square angle, which it does to the fix to Taurus and Scorpio, and it's in opposition to Leo, right? Because it's I'm looking for a pen, but I just got cat butt. Yeah, I don't know how it is, but my pen is under her somewhere. Is it uncomfortable? Yeah. That's because that's not for you. Where did you knock it down? Oh, Lord. She's like, give me your hand. Give me your weary. You're weak. She said, no, I just want your fingers. Just scratch me on the head. Okay, baby girl, we're scratching the head. So let's grab this other pen. I got an extra one. All right. So let's say here's Aquarius, and Pluto's like, here I am. It's the end of 2024, November 2024, and I am Pluto, and I am back in Aquarius, and I am staying here. I'm staying here for the next 20 years. So once I get here, I'm at 0. So right away, the other axis, the square to that is Taurus and Scorpio, right? So if you don't have any planets, look for the house cusp lines where you can find, here's my house cusp line, and I see I've got Taurus and Scorpio there, and find the degree that's at that house cusp line. I don't use a whole house system. And so if you're already lost, just get your digits to me and I can create a chart for you, and we can figure that out easy enough. For those of you who have your charts, which many of you do already have a chart, so you know the degrees, you know if you have anything there. So I know there's been a few people who've commented who have Pluto and Scorpio, and they're thinking, hey, gee, if I have Pluto and Scorpio, what's going to happen when the Pluto matches the degree of my Pluto and Scorpio, right? Because Pluto is about change. So we know, first off, something's changing. And so whatever those house numbers are, well, there's going to be some changes. When Pluto angles with a square, there's going to be changes. And Pluto's changes occur on a deep level. It wants us to throw away and get rid of and release like habits, things that we're comfortable with. Because you got to kind of think Taurus and Scorpio, right? So things that we held of value, we formed habits around these things. So it can be shared resources, shared values, right? It can even be relationships when we're talking about like love and values, right? So it can be intimate relationships. These could have been physically intimate. These could have been energetically, meaning like these were people that we had like kind of like that history with in a way where we um there's like that soul memory, I will call it. Okay. And so there's something changing and transforming. And because Pluto is about throwing out, when Pluto goes in and gets something, it grabs it at the root level and it tosses it. It's gone. It's gone. So this can be, hey, whiskers, her long whiskers into my hair. This can be a release of some of that. Um, some would say, yeah, there can be like these past life memories or other realities, other energetic memories. We meet somebody, we've just met them for the first time, yet there's this intense feeling and this like almost this bond that we recognize. And even if that other person doesn't recognize it, right? Like we can just acknowledge it and we're just like, oh, wow, this is wild, right? Because there's that history there. And so Pluto making that 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 angle and connecting and communicating, Pluto's changing. But remember, it's about releases. So I know there's people who have talked about, well, yeah, there's, those people and either something has come of those relationships and they've developed relationships. Okay. On command, Taffy jumped out of the scene. Um, that was hilarious. I just saw her button the screen like whoop. And so it says, I'm letting this go. I have to let it go because it wants us to release something that we held on to. And so when we're talking about Pluto and Scorpio energy, we don't always hold on to something with our hands. We emotionally hold on to it. So we think of traumas from the past, those experiences, and those things have like an energetic record, within and around our body. Like our aura holds that memory, right? Energy is memory. And so it's held there. And Pluto can come in and interact with it and say, does this serve you? Is this still of value to you? Now, I've been doing a lot of homework. Sometimes Pluto can be ruthless. So, what that means, another way of saying that is maybe we don't want to walk away from what's familiar. Maybe we're like, oh no, I don't want to do that. I'm scared. Fear. Pluto is about fears. It's about something that's buried very deep. So there can be, if we think of Pluto and Aquarius angling Scorpio energy, angling Taurus energy, especially for those of you who have Pluto in Scorpio, you know, remember it's tragic stuff, Scorpio energy. It's something that you feel on an unbelievably deep level. It's like at the innermost core of your very being. And many times it's compounded energy because an experience you can have in this lifetime may either mimic or something in it triggers. It's like a button and it brings up these old feelings and emotions and this like soul memory, soul history. And so we kind of almost take that on and either project it into this new life experience or this new person we're meeting, even though they may, you've never met them before. And it's not to say that you don't have history with that person. It's not to say that, but it can be confusing because when we feel something so deeply and so intensely, We understand we there's that comfort and familiarity with either that event, that person, the combination, whatever. And Pluto in Aquarius is the awakener, but on a deeply transformational level. And it can do it by giving like jolts, by the Big Ben alarm clock going off and waking us up. So it's like Pluto in Aquarius is there to handle energy and values and patterns and routines that over many, many, many ex- times, over many experiences, over many realities, over many lifetimes, over much of our history, we didn't shake it. So this can be traumas. It can be things we're more than happy to let go of. But it can be things that we hold on to like as a security blanket in a way because we identify with them. We're like, this is what I've been through. This is what's made me who I am. You see? And so we're deeply connected. We're energetically bonded. I know some of you said it. You knew I was going to say it. Energetically bonded. And so, how do you sever energetic bonds? Pluto and Aquarius can sever those energetic bonds. Okay. And the the teaching when we're dealing with Pluto is you will likely already be diving deep because it's psychological. And if it's in Scorpio, right? If you have Pluto in Scorpio, or for wherever your Scorpio energy is, even wherever your Taurus energy is, because Taurus is my values and it is my comforts. It is what's familiar to me. It is what I am like, hey, this is near and dear. I keep it close. So Pluto and Aquarius challenges both the Taurus and the Scorpio energy in a lot of the same ways. Because Taurus and Scorpio energy in your chart, it like does this ping pong game where it goes back and forth. And sometimes you're working from this end and sometimes you're working from this end. You're like oscillating. It's like my values and our shared values, Scorpio, our shared values. Taurus is the earth, right? And so Scorpio, like my money in the bank, what I value, but Scorpio's like our shared values. So our shared money. So this can be insurance money, insurance companies, inheritances, right? And we think of Pluto, very powerful in Aquarius. And Aquarius is the mind, but it develops, its goal is to dig deep, to show and to evolve and change into the higher intellect. So I was having discussion with quite a few different people actually, and we were discussing how, especially in the United States, the educational system had pretty much been hijacked, in the 80s, in the early 80s. And with that decline of critical thinking and research skills, right? And learning how to seriously understand and recognize a credible source. And this was prior to the internet, right? This was prior to doing all. This was old school, going in the library, going to the thingamajigger, whatever the hell it's called, I don't even remember, and looking up all these different authors, these credible sources, and having to literally have a stack of books, big stacks of books, right? That had to like maybe even be approved. And then you would have to research each of those books and you would have to form an opinion based on the research you did and write a full research paper and quote the sources and give your opinion on those sources and kind of weave and fold them into your body of work. Holy shit. Like there's an entire generation that process had been kind of skipped over. And so the challenge now dealing with Aquarian energy is how do I dig for the truth? Pluto digs, Pluto drills down. Pluto is there to show you the truth, but not so much in the way of, hey, this is the truth, but more of, I've done the digging and what I've dug up, it's floating up to the top, and this is what's there. This is what's there. This is what was sitting at the very bottom, at the root level. This is what's there. So there's something about a rawness attached to the Plutonian energy. And Pluto in Scorpio, well, let me just click on this real quick here and just read about that for a little bit. For those of you who have Pluto and Scorpio, this generation of people possesses the ability to initiate change on a worldwide basis in order to rise above the basic desires of humanity. So, dissecting just that, to rise above on a worldwide, on a global scale, to rise above basic desires of humanity, to rise above the basic desires of humanity. And so, what are the basic desires of humanity? Think about that. Basic desires, right? Well, gosh, greed comes to mind because it's a desire. It's not a need. They didn't say the word need. Yeah, and this is where we find out Pluto and Aquarius, that words have meanings, right? We can't just use a word and then all of a sudden twist the meaning of it and be like, oh, but it means this. No, like this is where we understand uh, and maybe, maybe put on blast within a group energy, Pluto and Aquarius, where we're talking, where we're sharing, where we're challenged to go beyond what's conventional, but go outside of our comfort zone, working within groups, working within friends, and changing who those friends are. Because now Pluto and Aquarius, it's kind of like, hey, I can see who's a phony, who, what, right? And so it's a change of our shared values because now all of a sudden, our friends, Pluto and Aquarius, the people we were deeply bonded to, right? The people we thought we were connected to on that level, the groups that we belonged to, there's this change that's happening because Pluto works to dig through Aquarian energy to the Aquarian spot in your chart. It's digging there, it's drilling down, and it's going to show you the realness, the authenticity of people you considered friends or associates. And remember, Aquarian energy isn't like, hey, we're best friends. It's not that at all. These are just associates. These are groups that you participate with because they're shared social causes, right? It could even be political groups that service, humanity in some way. We think of. I remember when I was. I did quite a few things. Now that I think about it, I did quite a few things. I was part of a political group at one time, and trying to um, just trying to get more people involved in the political thing, like, hey, vote, in that way. And this is why it's important because politics has everything to do with, your day-to-day life, and politics and the government sets up your roads, your bridges, like the potholes, your school systems, the structure of societies. And so the structures of societies is Aquarian energy, and Pluto will transform and change those. Think about that. The social causes, the just think of the global systems. I know I've said that 1,000 times. So Pluto in Aquarius putting a challenge to Pluto and Scorpio energy, and more specifically, the generation that has literally come to initiate change on a global scale in order to rise above the basic desires of humanity. And this says that they may experience conflict on a worldwide basis. So it's almost like, oh my God, everywhere I go or everywhere I hear about, there's conflict, right? There's conflict because it will be a challenge. There's always going to be this challenge. And we think of Aquarian energy as people who are authority figures. So authoritarians, people who try to use their power over us, on us, and try to be like, hey, I have power over you. And so Pluto and Scorpio then is like, hey, but wait a minute, right? What the hell? Like they're kind of they're kind of put in place almost to check that power because Pluto and Scorpio is very strong, actually. It's very strong. So, Pluto and Aquarius, there may be a time where the authoritarians become more obvious. That may happen. And Pluto and Aquarius in and of itself doesn't mean it's more power to the authoritarians because remember, Pluto is there to show you who's abusing their power. And people being authoritarians is an abuse of power. So this is where words have meanings will really come into play, where people who are just following, I don't know, people who are, their favorite their favorite talking head. They've got those talking points and they think that they're aligning with them in their own best interests and they have the same shared values of them as they do. And it's like, no, not when you pull out the dictionary and start looking up words and then you understand that some of the things some people are saying are actually totally and completely going against what's what's good for equality and freedom among humanity, because Aquarius energy is about humanity. It doesn't see a color. Aquarius energy doesn't see color. It doesn't. It says, I want you to be different. I want you to be individualistic. I want you to feel empowered when you embrace your individuality. And that's Pluto and Aquarius. So we feel a sense of uniqueness and we're okay to, how are we going to be unique? We're going to show those emotional wounds and the tragic stuff, right? And we'll be empowered when we get out of our comfort zone and we talk about those things. And so healing Pluto and Aquarius, healing groups of people, healing those that were standouts of society, that were either the rebels or were kind of maybe looked down upon or frowned upon. Like there can be an empowering time because this energy can give power, especially to those who have been walking through life with integrity. And that is so key. So let me go over some key things that I've written down real quick for those who happen to have specifically Pluto in Scorpio. And this can apply to your Scorpio energy in your chart, even if you don't have Pluto there, because Pluto rules Scorpio, you see. So you might have another planet. Look to see what house your Scorpio energy is in. Also look to see what house your Taurus energy is in. All right. The next video I'm going to do will be the opposition. The opposition, which will be Leo energy. Okay. So we're reassessing the past. We're reassessing and clearing out old, deeply entrenched habits and patterns and values and comforts. We're reevaluating our deepest motivations and feelings. So this would be those wounds, right? Those things where we're holding on to them and we value them because we're like, I went to battle for you. I did this. I fought, right? There's a part of that where we identify with it. We're warriors. Scorpio energy, Mars, ruler of Scorpio. We're warriors and we find power in that, right? We're like, and I survived. I survived. So we're reevaluating and we're saying, is this still a value for me? Is it time to let it go? It says here also that you are forced out of any ruts that you're in. So if you feel like you're in a rut and you're like, God bless America, I need a change. I need a change in my life. Well, then you'll be happy to see Pluto and Aquarius come through because it will force out any ruts that you're in. You may become more willful and driven. Willful. Why willful? Well, Pluto is sometimes spoken of as our willpower, as our soul's power. Pluto's spoken of as the divine. So think about this. If you've got Pluto in Aquarius, and an Aquarius energy is also spoken of as divine. Well, that's pretty powerful. That's Pluto divine and Aquarius divine. And so it's challenging Scorpio energy. You follow? And Aquarius is can be the rebel, can be the Big Ben alarm clock that wakes you up, but can be even more shocking and more surprising, right? So willful and driven because some say because Mars is the ruler of Scorpio as well, there's that drive and the desires and the ambition that comes with it. The word ambition, I really like drive, I think is more accurate than the word ambition. I associate ambitions with I don't know. I mean, maybe drive and ambition is the same, but passions absolutely because it's something that's deeper. It's not just a goal. It's something we're really driven towards, right? But when we're driven towards it because we have this passion, we feel it. We feel deeply about a thing. You follow? We feel deeply. It's not like, oh, but when I grow up, I want to be a lawyer. Are you deeply driven by it when you're 10 years old? Right? Do you see the little one? Do you hear her? I just let you in here. You're going to have to wait. You're going to have to. Deeper urges. You may become more willful and driven by deeper urges to make your life conform to your innermost desires and drives and passions. All right. Did you get that last one? I know Taffy was, doing her thing. You may become more willful and driven by deeper urges to make your life conform. Now, this is you doing this, right? You may become more willful and driven by deeper urges within you to make your life fit, to make it conform to your innermost deep desires. If your willpower is not aligned with integrity and true spiritual purpose, this process will be heavier and more turbulent. Either initiate the change or it is forced upon you. I've mentioned this already. Let go. Step out of the comfort zone. The lighter load, because we've stepped out of the comfort zone. So this can be objects, but there's a lot of energetics involved here, Scorpio energy, but there can be shared values, of course, right? And again, you have to consider the house that it sits in. So if everything I'm saying here makes sense, you can comment below and tell me what house your Scorpio energy sits in. And I can throw in some keywords down there for you to help you better understand this. Okay. The lighter the load and the regeneration happens because we're releasing, we're letting go, right? And once we let go, we kind of open up to something new. And that's Aquarian energy. That's Pluto and Aquarius. Deeply new, deeply new. And it's exciting, even a very exciting energy. We're experimenting when we're talking about Aquarius energy because think of science, right? Aquarius energy. Think of science. Think of change and transformations that are coming on this global level that may challenge, that may ask you to go deep within, right? To go deep within and to transform your own individual sense of power. All right. So, again, shared values, shared resources, shared natural resources. Pluto and Aquarius can be disruptive power. Okay. We're finding deeper freedoms through forcing of the fears. So, what that's saying is the Pluto and Aquarius is like, here's new, here's exciting, here's new people, here's new experiences. It's like an experiment, but it's on a really deep level. Okay. It's on a really deeply emotional level. So there could be different breakthroughs in science, especially connected to healing. So who knows, right? Technology will be involved. Maybe medicine, maybe doing less medicine and doing more psychology, right? Maybe incorporating more talking and sharing and ideas, maybe understanding group therapy even more, even though we have group therapy out there when we think of AA and 12 steps and like all those, you know, we belong to a group type thing, but maybe there will be yeah, I really, this is all new. So you tell me what your ideas are, but the healing process, because that's Pluto energy, healing groups of people, right? Possibly even healing power. What does that mean? Well, changing and transforming and healing those in power, changing and transforming power itself, like literally the grid, revamping those structures of society, the power structures of a society, right? That's definitely something. Um, and these new inventions may also challenge the insurances for sure, but finding deeper freedoms, I know I kind of went off, finding deeper freedoms through facing your fears. So the new experiences, the going outside the comfort zone, maybe some people are afraid of air flight because, Aquarius energy. And so facing the fears. I once read, um, I forget what her name is. Anyway, I'm sorry, but her I often talk about her. I've used her quotes all the times. You guys know who I'm talking about. She had that saying that a below average mind thinks and talks about other people. An average mind thinks and talks about like events, current events even, right? But the above average mind thinks and discusses ideas. I forget who said that, the wife of one of the presidents. Name her name. She also said that the only way to get over your fear, it isn't simply a matter of writing it down, but you have to aggressively, aggressively attack your fear. Because that's what a fear is. It grips us and it holds us and it's like it has attacked us and it's intense. So the way you go about it, this was her method. It might not work for you, but I did do it because I thought, holy shit, let me try this. It was an experiment, right? She said, every single day that you live, after you've listed all your fears, from that point on, each day engage in one of those fears. So if you had a fear of talking to people, complete strangers, every single day when you go out, whether you're going to the grocery store, going to school, whatever it is, uh, maybe, open your mouth and be the first to say hello to somebody, a complete stranger, right? So whatever that fear is, do it, face it. And of course, you can start with baby steps, but acknowledge it, look at it in the face, and then go to it, right? Go to it. And of course, yes, baby steps. So finding deeper freedoms. Once we face those fears, we end up finding out, oh my God, this whole time I feared that. I had more anxiety and stress over the fear itself, over the fear of heights, over the fear of flying, over the fear of going out in public and relating with people that I don't know, over the fear of doing a speech in public, over the fear of, I don't know, name some other fears, right? Fear of swimming, fear of water, whatever the hell it is, fear of driving on the highway. A lot of people have that fear, and that's a tricky one because there's a lot of crazy drivers out there. But once we face it and we got through it, we get to the other side, there's a freedom. There is this new sense of freedom. We feel lighter because that fear was a chain. It was a chain. And that's a lot of that Scorpio Pluto energy. It's recognizing those fears and realizing how there was those energetic bonds are handcuffs. They're actually chains wrapped around us. And so the spirit of Pluto and Aquarius says if we can be more balanced by taking a more having relationships with people and being attached yet detached, a sense of stoicism, being able to relate, but being able to do it in a way where we're more about the intellect and less about the emotions. So, what I love about this is Pluto is deep. Pluto will not allow you to be fake. And Aquarius energy is about being authentic, right? So I think there can be a beautiful merging of Plutonian energy and Aquarian energy where we are authentic, yet at the same time, we don't have to merge. We can we can connect and be deep without having to be bonded. And I mean bonded in the sense of being shackled, right? We can understand the detachment level. Obviously not detachment where we're not compassionate or where we have no empathy or understanding because that can be dangerous, right? Pluto in Aquarius brings in this this deep level of service, deep level of creating something because it's creative intelligence. That is Aquarian energy. When Pluto gets there, it takes it up a notch. So I think that Pluto in Aquarius is truly testing the bonds of friendships, of group energy, of the social structures that exist, the power structures that exist. And that could be material, tangible power structures, um, structures of people who are in authority, even. And we think of money and how money has power. And so we think of, I know definitely in the United States, corporate America and that sort of money. And we think of drug companies, we think of the insurance companies, that they're at the back of everything. And so Pluto and Scorpio, Pluto and Aquarius can hopefully change and transform that power paradigm and make that shift occur. Pluto works on a really deep level. So we don't expect the Pluto energy to, oh, I thought Pluto was supposed to do its thing. No, remember, it works deep. So it has to work slow. It works deep. It takes multiple going back and forth, retrograde motions multiple times, right? Here's the thing in your chart. When Pluto goes into a retrograde, all right, if it has to retrograde multiple times over a point in your chart, and if you've got something there, we know this is something you have carried with you for eons. It is just there in the history of your soul, which means it takes multiple phases of talking to Pluto, multiple sitting at the table and having conversations. But just remember to initiate the change from within yourself. If you do that, it will be less disruptive. It will feel less ruthless. I know it's difficult because we're talking about vulnerabilities. I get it. But the sooner you can be honest with yourself about what those vulnerabilities are, the sooner that myself can be honest about what our values are. And if our values are outdated, if our old patterns of holding on to people and things and our creature comforts and our security blankets, if we see how they're truly not needs, right? Even though we may think they're needs, there's a difference, the want and the need, the greed, right? There's a difference between all those things. Yeah, then the Pluto and Aquarius can be very disruptive and it can feel like, holy crap, what are you talking about? So we have to be willing to experiment. Think Aquarius energy. It is science, it is astrology, right? It is those big systems, those big global systems. And Aquarius energy is says, but we're not here to repeat what we've already done. We're challenging what's already been done. And we're thinking of new ways. So for those of you who had great opposition to anything that's been structured and has been, hey, same old, and tradition, right? Then this should be a time where you're ready to be like, yes, let me grab this bull by the horns and ride it and just do something I've never done before. So we think of space, right? We think of, holy crap, are we going to have encounters possibly with intelligent life, intellect? I want to, I talked about it at the beginning and I want to go back over it one last time, real quick here. The thing about research, that's Pluto, the ultimate researcher. Pluto in Aquarius, on learning how to dig intellectually, which means we are learning how to dig into our own thoughts, which means we're learning how to dig and to see the connection of why certain ideas and thoughts we hold on to them, because they're connected to wounds, to certain vulnerabilities, to events that we may not even be consciously aware of, but our memory, our emotional memory is holding on to them. And so once we have to go through, whether it's, I don't know, self therapy, talk therapy, some sort of intellectual digging that we will be doing to really be able to maybe just write and put into words and then come out lighter, intellectually open. Because what will happen is we then, and only then, and this is, of course, following all the rules. Science has rules. Science has rules. When you go through experiments, there are rules. There are these scientific laws, and they've been tested and proven. But there is one of the rules, the very last rule after all those rules, the very last rule is that there is always an exception to any one of those rules, because it understands that divine aspect. There are things it can't explain. And that is the piece where, once we have gone through the intellectual discipline, where we've trained our mind to do the research, to test those theories, to create a strong individual critical thinking process within ourselves, then it's at that time we stand out from the crowd, where we don't just go along with the crowd. It's not that we're rebelling against them in terms of doing something just to rebel, but each individual is supposed to be authentic and unique within this group. We need them to be different and unique. We need that. That's how we have a very strong group. If they're all the same, it's actually creates a weakness. We need for people to be different. So we need to hold a higher moral ground. We need to operate with integrity. We need to make sure we're not abusing the power that Pluto gives us. If we have abused those powers, it's the same as when Pluto was in Capricorn with business and government. Pluto will do the same thing within the social structures. So any abuses of power within the social structures, which I love, because how many social programs get money and the money never goes to the people who are supposed to be the recipients of those social programs? Yes. So Pluto's going to come through and it's going to be looking at the details, right? One of the other things is that when we develop the intellect, when we have trained our brain and we do the digging, we do the research, what happens is the instinct of living, of life, of Pluto energy, of Scorpio energy, being very instinctual, and then being challenged by Pluto and Aquarius, where we're then developing this. And we're letting go of the outmoded forms and habits and routines. Then and only then will we be able to connect to the Aquarian mind. Then our intuition, the divine mind, we then connect. We get those downloads. We get those lightning bolt thoughts and ideas. But you don't get them being all connected and playing around in the ethereal realm. You don't get connected playing around in the, the fantasy and the music and the sci-fi and the dreamy and the psychic energy. You get them through developing your mind, developing the mind. And so the healing of the mind, the healing of the higher intellect, the healing of what was from the past and letting it go, releasing the fear of different, releasing the fear of the unknown, developing the mind and understanding when you dig into the unknown, well, then it's no longer unknown. Do research on it, then it's no longer unknown. Once you do the research on it, it's no longer unfamiliar. You become familiar with it. When we become familiar with it, we no longer fear it. We no longer fear different, you see? And once we are able to do that, we will connect to that higher energy, to that source level energy. We can connect to the universe, the masters of the universe, right? So that is my talk on Pluto in Aquarius squaring Pluto in Scorpio and Pluto in Taurus, because it's values and shared values, creature comforts, and what we hold near and dear. But the energetics of Pluto and Scorpio also squaring Pluto in Aquarius, and how that energy is also needed to challenge those in authority, because there are those who possibly abuse their powers. So the generation who's got Pluto and Scorpio, just know that meaningful purpose. You came in with a plan. You came in with a purpose. And going through this process in the next 20 years, you will connect to that higher purpose, that more deeply meaningful purpose that you will live out the rest of your life pursuing. And you will feel empowered. That's it. Thank you for your time. If you're still here, I always appreciate it. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.